Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation today. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. Folks, we are still reeling from the results from the midterm election on Tuesday. We check in with our political analyst, Mr. Politics himself, Hassan Giordano, to talk to us a little bit about just some of these races. And the bigger story is, what are the implications as we move forward with a lot of races that are too close to call? So we're going to have that conversation with Hassan. Also, can I talk about Brittany Griner? We're going to bring you up to speed on what's happening with Brittany Griner's situation, and more importantly, how the president is planning to move forward with bringing her home. And then later, we're going to discuss, should we see Black Panther? Black Panther, Wakanda Forever is going to be seen in theaters all around the globe tomorrow. But people are still feeling a certain type of way about T'Challa being killed off because of the passing of our late great brother Chadwick Boseman. And I'm going to share with you what one writer had view of it and whether you need to consider it. Folks, we'll have those conversations and more, so stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. I am super excited. I've been waiting since Tuesday to talk to my brother, Hassan, Mr. Politics Giordano, who is the owner of DMV Daily Media Group. He is also a political analyst and strategist and has worked for many campaigns, here to give us his insight about what we saw on Tuesday with the national midterm elections. Now, I will share this, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday, but I think this is worth noting that, folks are still trying to see how things will play out, especially in the Congress, as a lot of races are still too close to call to determine whether the Democrats or the Republicans are going to really take control of either the House or the Senate. But more importantly, President Biden came out yesterday. He had a press conference from the White House where he spoke about the midterm elections, and he said that it really helped a democracy, that it was good for democracy to see the results the way they came out. And he acknowledged the fact that there was no red wave that many people was expecting to see. As the New York Times put it, it was just like a red ripple. And so Democrats are still, he believes Democrats are still kind of have the upper hand in this conversation. Republicans have been reported, there's been a number of reports about infighting among the Republican Party, blame, finger pointing, especially to former President Donald Trump, and so much more chaos. Let's bring in my brother Hassan, Mr. Politics Giordano, to break it all down and understanding what went down with this national midterm election. Hassan, how are you, sir?
I'm just right. How you doing?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. First, all right, let's talk about the bright spot. Now, there was some bright spots in the election. First one, home state, Maryland. Couple of big bright spots. One, Wes Moore won. That was the guy you actually worked on his campaign. There it is right there, folks. Wes Moore, of course, we know the first Black governor to be elected in the state of Maryland. The first Black governor. Wow.
Well, yeah, even more historic. He's the first Black elected statewide, period, in the great state of Maryland. We have three statewide elected positions. That's governor, that's comptroller, and that's attorney general. And out of the history of Maryland since 1869, we have yet to see an African-American man or woman hold any of those three statewide elected positions. This time, two of the three were African-Americans. So that was historic in and of itself. Of course, Wes Moore, first African-American governor. Anthony Brown, our former lieutenant governor, who ran for governor 8 years ago when Larry Hogan became governor, a Republican governor of what would be considered a blue state. He became the first African-American attorney general elected. And then we had the first female elected as comptroller of the great state of Maryland, and Brooke Learman. And this, Farajii, will be the first time in the history of Maryland since 1869 that not one white man will sit on the powerful board of public works.
Wow.
This time, there's 3 members. 2 of them will be African-American men, of course, Governor Moore, as well as our state treasurer, Derek Davis, both African-American men, and of course, Brooke Learman, who would be the comptroller. So they're all considered, quote unquote, minorities sitting on the Board of Public Works. Is the spending board for the big billions of dollars annually that go through the state of Maryland to contracts and businesses and for work being done. So that is huge in and
That's
of itself.
huge, bro.
Oh, absolutely.
That's huge. So Hassan, we really talking about Maryland changing the game in a lot of ways because of this election. Like that is I'm so proud of Maryland, man.
Represent, baby. And then look, his lieutenant governor, Aruna Miller, is the first
That's what to
be, to a statewide position. And so, we've only had 2 African Americans as lieutenant governor. And in Maryland, lieutenant governors run with the governor on a ticket. They're not like other states, lieutenant governors run independently. But in Maryland, they run as a ticket to the governor. So we've had multiple African Americans as lieutenant governors. Anthony Brown, as I stated before, Michael Steele was the first for the Republican Party. We're the first to do it with Bob Ehrlich back in 2002. But we've never had them independently elected to a position until now. And so it's historic all the way around the board. And it's really history was made across the board, across this country. If you look at the fact that 3 women became the first females to run their state and become governors of their state, New York, in Massachusetts, and in Arkansas. And in Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders not only was the first female governor of that great state, but she was also a part of the first duo of father and daughter to become governor of any state in the country. Of course, our former governor, Mike Huckabee, was first elected there. Now his daughter holds that seat. Then you had the first woman elected to serve in Congress from Vermont, elected Becca Balint, and Florida elected the youngest member ever of Congress, a former part-time Uber driver, 25-year-old Maxwell Frost, was elected as the only Gen Z member of Congress. So we had history across the board on Tuesday night, outside of the regular narrative of Democrats, Republicans, who's going to control the Senate, House, and so forth.
Yeah. There was a lot of there was certainly some progress being made. So here's a couple of things, Hassan. This is why I couldn't wait to talk to you in particular, brother, because I know you can give me some insight. One is that when we're looking at this Maryland situation, let's talk a little bit about the whole passing of the marijuana cannabis medicinal recreational purpose of use of cannabis. I reported yesterday that it did pass. It wasn't a huge majority, but it passed. But where does that stand now? I mean, you bringing in this first Black governor, you're bringing in, you're getting Black folks at the table. Now we got this cannabis situation. We know that, for example, I know the relationship between the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland has, in the past, has been somewhat of a contentious relationship because of number of things. So now, are we going to see Maryland in a much more progressive state? Are we going to see Maryland taking the lead on and kind of serving as a model for the rest of the country around Black leadership, progressive politics, and agencies or governments, rather administrations working together? Are we going to see Maryland take a lead in that respect?
Hell to the no. Don't get it twisted. Maryland is not a Look, we're known as a progressive blue state, on the surface, but we are also, anybody who's from Maryland, who knows politics in Maryland, are a very conservative state. We're still the most southern state in the nation, right? And so we've never acted in a very progressive manner as much as we want. Look, we do have progressive wins, right? Now we have the first African-American Speaker of the House that we have, Adrienne Jones, who was elected by the body a couple years ago. She put forth the first Black agenda this past legislative session, and they passed some things that were historic in themselves in terms of criminal justice reform and things that would make minority African-Americans in particular proud, right? To say, oh, okay, but it wasn't all the way where it needed to be. And that showed you that it's still a conservative majority, right? I mean, you still have Democrats who control both chambers in the legislature in Maryland. So you would think that, progress would be a lot further than it is in Maryland, but those Democrats are still, to some degree, kind of hesitant on pushing the ball forward until other states do it. Maryland, I've always liked to say, is the copycat state. They like to see other people do things before they actually step out there on their own and do it. So passing marijuana was a great step that we've seen other states do. I would really hope that we get to a point that every state in the nation has it. I'm not a proponent of marijuana. I don't smoke marijuana. I don't knock those by people who do. I just don't, partake in the ooh-wee my damn self. But I say that to say I'd rather either all states have that law passed or none. Because what you're seeing is, especially amongst African Americans and minorities, is a place in history where you have people traveling across state, just like Brittany Griner, right? You go to a different country, you think, hey, well, in my state, this is legal. So I'm going to, pack it with me, no ill intent. Well, that's the same thing happened in California. We drive across, lines, state lines. Right. Now you're being locked up for the transportation of illegal substance because federally it's still illegal. Right. And so we have to get up to a point in this nation that we have uniformity with our laws. And so I'm glad to see Maryland move forward. Of course, DC, our neighbor, has already had this legalized. New York has already legalized marijuana. And I also hope that we allow, with the first Black governor, and I think Wes, and talking to, I think this was one of his first agenda items, will be, how do we ensure that minority business benefits from what we're going to see as an outpouring of money that's going to get, right? The economic impact of legalizing marijuana, because we legalized marijuana for medicinal, for medical purposes a few years ago. And what had happened was they put together these licenses for the shops to be, to distribute this marijuana across the state. And what we saw was minorities weren't at the table, right? And they had to go back and change the law, Farajii, 2 years later, because they didn't do what they should have did in the beginning, is make sure that you have a certain level of minority participation when it comes to ownership of these. We want to be the primes. We don't want to be the subs. We want to be, you know what I mean, bringing in the big. And so I think Wes will take advantage of, first steps of making sure now that we have legalized marijuana, now the step is, where do we go from here? Now that it's legal, how do we benefit from it? Because the state is going to benefit from it. You can best believe that. They're going to tax the hell out of that to make sure that they, swell their pockets. But it's also a question of, and this is what I talked about just the other day, is talking to Ivan Bates, who's the new state's attorney in Baltimore City. We saw a very progressive, so-called progressive state prosecutor, Marilyn Mosby, who decided not to criminalize and not to charge anybody with the possession of marijuana. But here's the issue, Farajii. Even if it's legal, you still can't ride around with tons of marijuana in your car, right? That's still distribution levels, right? So now people are going to think, oh, I can just walk around with, smoking marijuana on the streets and I can transport. And that's just not the case. As he was saying, we're still going to charge you if we think that you're distributing marijuana. Because now the state's going to want theirs, right? They're not going to still allow you to sit on the street corner and hustle marijuana because they got to get theirs. They don't want no black market happening. They ain't getting their cut off it, right? They are the original gangsters. So you best believe they're going to have things in place. And I don't think a lot of people understand. I think they see, oh, it's legal, so I can do whatever I want. I can walk around in front of a police smoking marijuana. They're not going to do nothing to I can drive with a ton of it. Like, hell no, you nuts. Like, that's not going to be the case. And I hope people don't fall into that.
Awesome. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think, of course, in California, it's a whole different vibe, a whole different energy. But you're absolutely right. Look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, folks, we're going to continue our conversation with Mr. Politics Hassan Giordano to talk about some other political storylines. Let's talk about this Raphael Warnock, Herschel Walker runoff election that's gotten everybody. Let's talk about the fact that, let me just share with you, I'm going to share with you some data, folks. Many people have been upset and said, oh, black men didn't vote for Stacey Abrams. That's a lie. Black men voted. And we voted for Stacey. But I'll tell you who didn't vote for Stacey. We're going to have that conversation and a whole lot more as we continue to chop it up and talk politics with Mr. Politics himself. So stay with us. We got a lot to get to, and I hope you stay tuned. Join us in the conversation. Hit us up in the chat on our YouTube, as we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook right now, and on, of course, on the blackstarnetwork.com. And we'll get right back to you. Stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. And we have been talking, of course, still talking about the midterm elections that happened on Tuesday. A lot of things had shifted. There are, again, so many races that are too close to call. And we've been chopping it up with as we talk politics with Mr. Politics himself, Hassan Giordano, who serves as the owner of DMV Daily Media Group, to give us some insight and his analysis of what we've been seeing, what we saw on Tuesday, and what we can expect to see moving forward. Hassan, we talked about Maryland. Let's go down south even further, and let's talk about Georgia. All right, let's talk about it. All right, so no, that's why I'm in this work, bro.
Stay right there.
Hey, look. So give me your analysis of what we should expect with this Raphael Warnock, Herschel Walker situation. And look at this. Look at it. Like, look, I cannot believe. Hey, look, Hassan, when we came on air on yesterday, bro, so many of my online culture crew folks were like, yeah, what the hell is going on in Georgia? How did Herschel Walker, a man who had troublesome baby mother drama, man who had issues, when you talk about abortion, who said he was against it, but then on the other side, we're hearing a different story. A man who literally just not able to articulate. I mean, when you see him in interviews and conversating, public discussions, he seems to be just all over the place. How did he able to come to how did they get to this place where they're at a runoff with Raphael Warnock, a man who clearly is in a much better position on a lot of different levels? How did this happen, Hassan?
It's Georgia. Like, people fail to realize that blacks and Democrats in particular, but especially blacks, had absolutely no chance of winning Georgia 10 years ago, right? This is a new phenomenon, right? This is a state where the likes of the Newt Gingriches, this is still a very, think about who represents a part of Georgia. Marjorie Taylor Greene, like the craziest of Republicans. So this is not a Maryland, it's not a New York, it's not a very diverse state. You're starting to see more diversity based off people moving in. They call the new money of Atlanta, Chocolate City, Black City, whatever. Chocolate City is actually DC, but they want to call it Black Hollywood or whatever y'all want to call Atlanta these days. That's still nowhere near what Georgia is, right? This is still at its core a very lily white conservative state with racial undertones. And so the fact that Raphael Warnock even got elected as a black man, I don't care about being a Democrat, as a black man, the Democrat was surprising enough 2 years ago. And so the good thing that he has on his side, and I think Democrats have, is they're used to this. This is how he got in 2 years ago in a special election runoff, right? And I think this is the best thing that could have happened to Democrats, because now they get an opportunity to have a special election on December 6th. They're going to pour all their resources into this one election. On Tuesday, they had to focus across the country. You had 435 House seats. You had 35 governorships. You had almost 35 Senate seats up for grabs and 36 governorships, right? And you had to pick and choose who I can put money to, This gives you an opportunity to focus on one race and one race only. And so you're going to see a ton of money going into Georgia on both sides, right? Not just Democrats, Republicans as well. You're going to start to see this influx, and everything's focused on Georgia. And I think you're going to start to see even more come out and more people start to see who Herschel Walker really is. I don't know if you saw him at election night. I mean, he had so much grease, Vaseline on his face. He looked like Mike Tyson about to go fight Mike Tyson. Right? I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what the? I'm just, from somebody who does campaigns, I'm like, who the hell let him on stage looking like that? Like, y'all dead wrong for that, But hey, it worked. And it's not him. It's Republicans decided, and I don't know why, but at some point they decided this is going to be our nominee, flaws and all, right? We're going to take him, we're going to run with him, and we're going to do everything we can to push him across the finish line, because they knew that it was such a conservative state that they could have a flawed candidate like Herschel Walker and still get him close enough to possibly take back this Senate seat, which is a very critical Senate seat. Because I'm gonna be quite honest, at this point we stand at 48-48 in the Senate. It's really 49 because Republicans, even though Alaska hasn't been called, both of those women are Republicans. The only difference is going to be whether you're going to get a crazy Republican or whether we're going to get the more moderate Lisa Murkowski, who's the current senator, who's more moderate. She usually kind of.
So we can kind of use the term Trumplican or Republican.
Right. I like that. That's perfect, right? But look, and so that's the side. That's 49 basically for Republicans. You got Arizona, right, where Mark Kelly is up about 5 points last time I saw. You have Nevada, where the Republican challenger last slot is about 2 points up. And then so it's going to all come down to Georgia, who controls the Senate, right? And so if Herschel Walker pulls it out in December 6th, then Republicans will control both chambers of Congress, and you're going to have a Democrat in the White House, and not a damn thing's going to get done for the next 2 years. Now, on the flip side of that, if Raphael Warnock wins December 6th and Democrats control the Senate, Republicans will control the House, and Democrats will control the White House. And again, not a damn thing's going to get done over the next 2 years. So really, it doesn't matter who controls what, because neither one of them took this election as saying, hey, the American people want you to work together. They realize, look, Democrats, you ain't doing too great right now. We're on the verge of collapse with our economy, with a recession. Biden has the worst approval ratings of a president in damn near history, right, in his first 2 years. And yet they still, again, it was not a Republican tidal wave like it should have been. I thought it was going to be a ripple. It wasn't even a ripple, Farajii, because...
What was it? How would you describe it? Was it just like a blur?
Yeah, it was a sneeze. A achoo. What I saw Tuesday night was the American people saying, check this out. We got to send a message to the Democratic Party that you ain't doing enough, right?
Right.
Our pockets are hurting. Things are at desperate measures. You got to do something. But they weren't ready to press the red button. They weren't ready for the nuclear option of those crazy ass Republicans that Trump helped get elected in the primary. So what you saw was, because historically, when a party takes the White House, that next midterm, the average is 28 seats, which the other party will win in the House. That's the average. Republicans are right now only holding less than 10. It'll probably be about maybe up to 17, might be 13, 14 by the time it's all said and done. That is not even on the normal level. I really thought that if it was a tidal wave, we'd have saw 35, 40 or more seats won.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They didn't even get to maybe a third of that. So that just shows you that the American people aren't willing to just switch all the way, which should tell Democrats and Republicans that clearly America wants you to work together on things that help them. Now, if y'all want to fight on that other stupid stuff, then by all means have at it. But get shit done that helps the economy, that helps voting rights, that helps American people move their life forward after COVID, right? People are just fed up. They're tired of it, and they're tired of this back and forth bickering. They are, and they're showing them, and it's just like neither one of them really want to, acknowledge what the American people are showing them.
They don't get it. All right, let me go to my culture crew. Got something to say, because I think you're right on point. McCall, you kicked us off this afternoon. Thank you so much. You said Warnock and Walker shouldn't be in a runoff. Warnock should have won right out. Warnock is the best and most qualified candidate. I hear you, McCall, but guess what? This is America. Donald Trump shouldn't have been president.
No.
I mean,
49.3% of Georgians believe like McCall. So unfortunately, the other 49.7% actually didn't, right? So what you gonna do?
Right, absolutely. Victor Atkins, Victor, McCall, thank you. Victor, you checked in and said Herschel got a lot of boost from Governor Kemp in the first ballot, but the runoff is going to be a totally different ball game. Let's get out the vote for Senator Warnock he's representing. Talk to us a little bit about that relationship, if you can, Hassan.
Well, it was interesting because I think, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Stacey Abrams
situation.
Right. And so Kemp, I thought Stacey Abrams would have gave a better run for her money, but honestly, I think Stacey Abrams was more focused on being a national celebrity and running around the country helping other African Americans, minorities, and Democrats raise their profile, and did not really concentrate on her race like she did 4 years ago. Right?
Oh, wait, hold on, bro. Hold on. Because see, you're the first person that I've heard say that.
Yeah. I mean,
you're the first person that I've actually heard say that. So it wasn't even about the voters and all of that. You're saying she just wasn't focused on what she needed to do.
Yeah, their campaign did not put up the aggressive campaign they did 4 years ago. And anybody who's paying attention to that race will tell you, I think her campaign, if they're being honest, will tell you, no, we really didn't. Like 4 years ago, they were registering people at record numbers and then flipping and turning it around and making sure the people they registered turned out to vote. They weren't doing that. Right? They were relying on the people that had already supported them. They weren't flipping new people. John Fetterman is a great example. Fetterman up in Pennsylvania said, guess what? I'm not doing the usual, I just want my people to turn out. I'm going into Republican strongholds and showing them that I could be good representative for them. That's why he flipped the entire state of Pennsylvania, right? Now Democrats control Pennsylvania because of that mindset and that strategy. You did not see that coming out of the Stacey Abrams camp this time. For the past 2 years, since that election, really, she's been a rock star. And you know, God bless her for it. But you have to at some point realize I'm running for this race and I'm going to concentrate on this race. And I just think from that. And then, you know, you saw a lot of people, and just be honest with you, a lot of white people took for granted that there's no way this black woman's going to beat us 4 years ago, and they got a wake-up call. So this time around, they was not about to allow that to happen. So you had a lot more white people do show up, and your caller or your post was exactly right. Herschel Walker benefited from that. But guess what? Kemp won't be on the ballot come December 6th. And those same white people will not show up in droves for a black man that many of them can't stand their goddamn self, regardless of party affiliation.
Wow. Let's go back to the comments because folks are checking in. Okay, I like it. Again, first time somebody gave that analysis, and I think that's worthy of consideration. Janine said the same thing. She said, I think he might be on to something. Yeah, me too, Janine. I think Hassan might be on to something here. Because everybody was talking about the black man not voting for Stacey Abrams. Everybody was talking about, oh man, black folks didn't come out. Let me just share these numbers before we go back to this, because now that since we're on this point, let's look at these numbers. Let's throw up this quote about black men showing up for Stacey Abrams. This came out of The Root, folks. Take a look. As the exit polls from the 2022 midterm elections continue to circulate, black folks once again proved to be crucial blocks for the Democratic Party. Black people accounted for 11% of voters, 86% of whom voted blue. However, over the last several months, there was significant talk of how the absence of black male support could lead to a Republican takeover. However, black men did vote for her in overwhelming numbers. Black people made up 28% of voters in Georgia, which was comprised of 17% women and 11% men. Of that 11%, 84% voted for Abrams. Her loss wasn't a result of black men not showing up. It was because white people voted for her adversary. At the core of this myth lies the discomfort of white folks. It's easier to point the finger at black men and not interrogate the amount of racist white people desperate to cling to oppressive political systems, even if it's to their detriment. That level of honesty will force the infrastructure of American politics to shatter in hopes of building something newer and fairer. That is coming from an op-ed from the Root. But Hassan, would you agree with that sentiment?
Oh, wholeheartedly. Matter of fact, I got written right here so I didn't forget it. That exact quote from the Root's article. It's easier to point the finger at black men and not interrogate the amount of racist white folk who were not ready to give up this oppressive system that they're comfortable with. Don't get that twisted, because they're not on the brunt end of that. We are, right? Again, go back to what I said earlier. This is a historically racist state. These white folk ain't just giving up power to black people just because. You're going to have to take that from them. And again, it's hard to repeat lightning in a bottle, right? 4 years ago, you had that. You had that
Right.
and then you have to also remember that 4 years later, we're at a midterm where this was supposed to be a Republican surge, right? And so you're going to see in the next 4 years or 2 years, it's going to be a more Democratic surge. We always have these ups and downs, right? And so for both parties. So you can't repeat what you have done 2 years ago, 4 years ago. And you could get better in some cases, but it's just like the Abrams campaign, again, was not focused on trying to get those white voters that the Root's talking about and convince them to come and support her. Because look, at the end of the day, Democrats don't control Georgia. Republicans do. They have for a very long time. So in order to win statewide for a position like governor, see, people fail to understand a race for governor is a far different race for United States Senate. They're both statewide, but they're two different functions. People they don't mind so much if you're a black person and we're going to send you to Congress, because that's not a direct, in their mind, that's not a direct correlation on my everyday life. I'm sending you to play around Congress. But for governor, you have a direct line to my taxes. You have a direct line to my business, my livelihood, my family, right? And so people in their minds like, am I really going to, why do you think Maryland has never had a black represented on that level? There's a reason, because look, I'll let you to this, but no, not to that. And so people think that, oh, well, they're both statewide, so it should be. No, that's just not the case. And so many people will be willing to allow for those systems to be compromised in their mind by allowing a minority into a position that they may not allow in a position like this. And so again, you're gonna have to either register a whole lot more Democrats, or you're gonna have to flip some Republicans in order for a black person to win governor in a very conservative state like Georgia.
Nisa, you checked in and said that state is a lot more diverse than when I moved here in the 90s. Y'all would say I'm embarrassed, but I know there are only a few bright spots in the state: Atlanta, Savannah, and Albany. I'm familiar with Atlanta. I'm familiar with Savannah. Albany, I'm not familiar with. I haven't been to Albany, but I'm assuming that these sound like the areas that most black folks are in. Is that correct? Is that my understanding of it, Hassan?
Right. And see, people think because, Atlanta's this new black Hollywood, and you got Savannah, you got Albany. And if you look at those racial makeups of that, you would think black people actually have a chance of doing something. They are a very small, and I'm not going to, because I don't know the exact percentage of the overall population compared to those three jurisdictions, but I guess it's less than 20%. I can tell you that in terms of voting population, right? I ain't talking about an overall population. I'm talking about voting population. And so if not only if you're this small of a voting population compared to the overall white population, but then you got to think about the turnout of the population. How many of those that are registered blacks and minorities are turning out to vote, right? Baltimore City, prime example. African Americans have long been the majority of voters and citizens, but whites have overcome them in turnout numbers in the past two elections. So you start to see a different mirror of imagery of who is actually getting elected because of the population of who's actually showing up to vote. So then again, that goes back to, how do you get those people out to vote? If only 15% of black people are coming to vote of those who are registered, but 25 to 30% of the white voters showing up, you honestly think you're going to get a black person elected? Come on. I mean, let's be honest about it.
Right. Because it just, the math ain't mathing for that to happen.
Right.
The math ain't mathing. Let's go back to the crew here. Laura, you checked in and said, look, I've been thinking about this, putting this in the mix. Stacey Abrams should be head of the DNC to take it in the new direction, the same type of strategy she's been doing. So yeah, I've been hearing some people wondering what's the future for Stacey Abrams. Do you think that that's a good idea, that she should kind of move forward in the behind the scenes work to revamp the Democratic Party to be to reflect her values?
Hell no. Stacey Abrams needs to do exactly what she's been doing and do it independent of the Democratic Party. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Stacey Abrams is too black to be the DNC chair. I'm just be honest with you. She's too much. She's too independent to be the chair of the because you're going to have to conform to the Democratic establishment in order to be the head of the Democratic Party. And so, they like symbolism, but that's not one of the symbolisms they like, right? Like she would have to change everything about her to be the chair of the Democratic Party. And I don't think that the party's ready for that. And nor do I think that Stacey should do that to herself. I think she has a tremendous future ahead of her in politics, whether it's an elected office in Georgia or whether it's traveling around the country as she has been, raising money for down ballot candidates and other candidates running for Congress, Senate, governor, or state Senate and state House representatives, because she has that type of electric personality and she's able to unlock the wallets of individuals that many times don't really give to campaigns. And so I think she should take what she's grown herself organically and expand that, as opposed to try to conform to the Democratic Party. Of the face.
I want us to go back to that in a moment, Hassan, because now you're opening the door for a different part of the conversation. You said take what she has and build it out organically instead of working to conform it. And this, brother, you just dropped a word right there. So many people, first, I got to say to you, Hassan, so many people are just enjoying your analysis of this whole Stacey Abrams situation and this whole conversation. Jawan, my sister, you said, you better say so, Mr. Politics. We're tired of the circus. We can't see our government work for us and do the job we elect them to do. You are absolutely right. And to Hassan's point, that's exactly what we're seeing. And I think that's why it's bringing us to this point, Hassan, that and this is something I said yesterday, because I came in, my energy and my spirit yesterday, bro, was one of being not so hopeful, right? Because there were a number of black candidates, and I'm thinking about a Stacey Abrams, like, what do you do with a woman of such great brilliance and expertise, right? What do you do? How do you make sure that she can continue to build on the momentum that she has established? But when you look at the number of, I would say not necessarily progressive in the political sense, but the new, fresh, bold leadership that we could have seen. Like if you look at a Val Demings, if you look at a Mandela Barnes, if you look at, what's the other brother? Charles Booker, I think his name was, out of Kentucky. Like these are some fresh-minded black men and women who can bring some new ideas, and they lost. And I think one of my big, sentiments around this is that, Democrats was able to resist the red wave. Republicans got some seats in, not as big as they expected. But black folks, in terms of black political leadership, black power political leadership, I think we took a hit, bro. I feel like we took a hit on a national level because some of the boldest and the brightest and the freshest voices weren't able to get into the space. And I'm like, when we're looking at 24, what can we really expect? What can we expect from the Democrat Party? What can we expect from anybody to have leadership that truly represents the sentiment of Black America?
Well, and see, that's part of the argument I was having about having a Stacey Abrams representing that type of party, right? Because we're going to be honest. Let's be honest about it. The party itself does things in a certain manner that is never beneficial to us, right? And I think if you ask a Val Demings, Mandela Barnes, and even to some degree a Wes Moore, they'll tell you the party was never, all in with them. They really could care. The only reason Wes Moore was so successful is because Wes Moore himself was able to raise $7 million in the primary alone. Now, mind you, he was running. The primary is his most impressive win because here's a guy who never held elected office a day in his life. He wasn't political at all. But right. He ran first time for governor. He beat the former DNC chairman, Tom Perez, who was also not only just the DNC chair, he was also the Secretary of Labor both for Maryland and the country under Obama, right? Thanks. This was Obama's guy. He beat out him. He beat out a comptroller, Peter Franchot, who's been on the ballot statewide since 2006. So he beat out some very impressive Democrats, but he did it himself. He didn't have to rely on the party, because if he did, he would have never got elected. I'm telling you right now, he never, because the party would never put the amount of resources that they put behind a John Fetterman or an Adams or anybody else that does not look like us, that they do a Val Demings or a Mandela or a Wes Moore. And we see that. And the problem I have with the party is they take the mindset of, you have to raise a threshold amount before we can even consider getting involved. Not understanding that if I give you the seed money to get into it, man, you could take that to the next level, right? We know this from just being on the streets. You give me a pack, I'm running with it. Next thing you know, I'm the biggest dope dealer on the block because you gave me an opportunity. I didn't have the money to get in the game. You gave it to me and you looked out for me, and that allowed me to do it. And they don't do that for us. And that is the problem, party establishment system that we have right now. Michael Steele will tell you this, even as a Republican, the former chair of the Republican National Committee. He will tell you the exact same thing on the Republican side. So it's not just a Democratic thing, it's a Republican thing as well. And Stacey Abrams has the opportunity to change all that. She can take what they have built organically and be able to put that money and those resources behind those people across the country, and we can start to see progressive movements of people of color.
So what do we say about that conversation relating to Black political leadership? I mean, at this point, you know, when we're 2 years out from the presidential election, somebody, and you know, some folks were saying just yesterday, I thought, well, Wes Moore can run for president. I'm like, that's not even possible, because one, he don't really get into office until 23 next year, and then he's only going to be in office for like a year. You don't want to just take him out. He got to get his feet wet in this thing. So now, okay, he's not in the picture, but now you the fresh voices, who's on the bench? Who are you going to pull out for 24? Especially if the other dude is talking about getting back into the game. Like, you know, there has to be some energy around change, right? There has to be some momentum around where we see this country going. And right now, and I'm saying for Black political leadership, I'm talking about Black folks only, I'm not seeing who are the fresh voices and the new faces that we need to take a look for, especially given that these other candidates didn't make the cut in this election.
Well, I've heard the same thing, the same argument that, 24, possibly Wes Moore. It was like, that's ridiculous. Like, he hasn't proved anything other than he can win an election, right?
Right.
Here's the thing, though. You're not going to prove anything in 24, because Tuesday night showed one thing and one thing only, that Biden will be the Democratic nominee in 2024, because it showed his pride. That's why you saw him come out with that press conference. Like, yeah, y'all thought we was done, right? You heard through that. I listened very carefully.
Hold on, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished?
Yeah, you slept on us, right? But you saw what happened, because America likes what we're doing, right? And you're going to get even more of that next year. So that emboldened. If Biden was thinking about not running in 2024, that killed all that mess right then and there. And Democrats are not going to challenge their sitting incumbent president, especially when you have the possibility of a Donald Trump, who to me was the biggest loser of Tuesday night. He won't admit it, but I think he knows that he was the biggest loser without a doubt. The biggest winner, Joe Biden. The second biggest winner was the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, because basically you just put Donald Trump in his grave, and he just been promoted to the top of the short list of Republicans to be the presidential candidate in 2024. But I do think Stacey Abrams, her first conversation and call needs to be with a Wes Moore. On three-way needs to be a Val Demings, a Mandela, and they need to say, guess what? How can we do this? Because if I'm Stacey Abrams, I'm saying, damn, Wes, you raised $7 million in the primary and another $8 million in the general. How can we do this on an independent level? How can you help fund? Already started in Georgia and has started to matriculate across the country.
Hold on. Hassan, I gotta stop. You dropping too many jewels today, bro. I gotta stop you because you dropping them. You gotta.
It needs to happen now. Whether it will or not, that's a whole nother question.
Right, but you're saying that we may need to produce a candidate on an independent way.
Oh, absolutely. You if you do it through the party system that we've grown accustomed to, we'll never get the candidate that we as people want or need, right? Because Kamala Harris ain't it. I can tell you that right now. No shade to the sister, but she ain't it. She's a conformed type of person. That's how she got where she was in California. You don't need that. You need somebody who's not beholden to the party establishment and elite, because the party elite don't look like us. They're going to make sure you say certain things and don't do certain things. You need to have a more organic type of organization that makes the party have to stop and pause to say, okay, well, if that's what y'all want, then we're going to have to go along with that because you're so strong. And I think we include the Latino population. Of course, it's about us, but guess what? There's a lot of other people that will benefit from that, right? And so you bring them in and say, guess what? If we want to really change this country for the better, this is how we do it. And I'm telling you right now, we have the tools and the resources to do it. It just has to come together.
Do you think that Black folks, Black America, would support an independent candidate, an independent Black candidate for president of the United States?
Right now, hell no. Because the Black America is so beholden to the Democratic Party that it's going to take time for and I'm just going to be honest with you, for the baby.
Come on, man, keep it on it.
The baby boomers are the ones that have to come around. 50 and under, you ain't got no problem doing it. They could care less about the Democratic Party. 50 and over have been voting for the Democratic Party for so long. Like they said, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, right? They say, oh, no, it's always going to be the excuse. Oh, no, we got to vote for our Democrats because only a Democrat can win. And you're going to have that mindset amongst many people. But I think this younger generation, if you look, I'm more impressed with the younger generation. 35 and under showed off on Tuesday. They might not be talking about it a lot. Certain people are. They showed off in many of the races across the country. Warnock wouldn't have been where he was without the younger generation. Stacey Abrams would not have been. Wes Moore certainly would not have been where he was without the younger voters.
Facts.
If you get them involved in a grassroots movement with the money that is necessary to make it what it needs to be, I think we could have a shot. Maybe not in 24, but certainly in 28.
Woo! All right, Real Brooklyn checked in. My guy, you said, firstly, Hassan, Real Brooklyn's been really appreciating your analysis. He said Stephen Horsford looks to be a pretty good dude. No issues, drama, or foolishness associated with this brother. I think he should be groomed to be in a higher office. What you think, Hassan? What you think, brother?
I don't. I've heard and seen some things I haven't really looked into to be quite honest. But I think that's where we got to start. We have to start with names that we may not know as well as a Stacey Abrams or a Wes Moore, right? People that become the Stacey Abrams and a Wes Moore. Because once you're getting up there, then that's the whole reason why you have the minor league. You got to start looking for this new talent, this younger talent. Lamar Jackson wasn't nobody on nobody's radar 15 years ago. You got to breed them somewhere. And so that is the opportunity for us to do that, for us to be able to take those candidates, polish them up, make them who they need to be, give them the resources for them to show who they are. That's all they need is the resource. But many times, I'm telling you, politics, see it all the time. The only thing that holds us back is the finances, because our people don't give to elections the same way they do. And so many a times, our candidates who have been our great candidates never make it out of races, whether it's for council, for delegate, for senator, for Congress, because they never are able to raise the type of money to show the constituents who they actually are, how great of a candidate they are. So many times you see the greatest candidates lose just because they don't have the resource. That's why I think campaign finance reform should be on the forefront of everybody's mind, from United States Congress to states, because that kind of levels the playing field a lot more. Not saying it takes money out, it doesn't take money out of politics, unfortunately, but it does level the playing field for candidates like that, for low-end candidates to really have a way into the fold to be able to make a name for themselves and actually win an election.
Hey, look, let me just tell you, bro, if we shut down this part of the discussion, I will say that I think the ideas that you brought forth to us today, especially around this idea of an independent candidate, bro, I think we really need to consider it. On Tuesday night, and really in spilling over into Wednesday morning, my mind, and I was watching our Black Votes Matter election coverage here on Black Star Network on Tuesday, and I was thinking to myself, I'm thinking about 24. I'm thinking about going, like you said, going to the minor leagues. Who do we got? How do we break through? Because I just don't see, and this is just me, Hassan, I just don't see us going into the polls again for this presidential election with the same type of urgency and fervor. I think that we kind of hit a wall. I think that we hit a wall. I think there was a lot of people that were hoping, and I'm saying Black folks, that we were all hoping that there was going to be a dramatic change. But when you have so many people, like I think if Stacey Abrams would have won, that would have definitely kept the confidence going. I think the air is out of the balloon and out of the room for a lot of that. And so I think a lot of us in Black America, we're probably just all like, I mean, we voted, but you know what I'm saying? Like kind of like nonchalant about it at this moment. And I think that this is the perfect place for us to be in order to create the greatest amount of change that we want to see. This is the perfect place, bro. I feel like this is the best time to do it because we're not so high on the belief and the hopes and the expectations of the Democratic Party or of the system itself. We are at the right place with the right sentiment saying, what's next? Now what? This is the perfect place to be, bro.
It definitely
and I think
is.
It's scary. And to your point about young people, I think that's what scares the baby boomers, right? The baby boomers are going to keep driving this conversation about going out to vote. Come on, guys, we got to get back into it. We got to get back into it. But for people like our age and younger, we all are just like, nah, I think we're going to try something else. And I'm even going to go as far as to say this now that the election is over. If we don't produce a candidate that speaks to our interests and issues, or there isn't a candidate, what's the point? I'm not going to keep going back and forth and people are like, oh, it's voting. I get that. I voted and I get it. But I'm talking about seriously, if we want to stop the vicious cycle of this level of just being asleep at the wheel, I'm not going through this no more, bro. Personally, I don't want to go through this. I don't want to encourage people, oh, man, go out and vote in the presidential election. I'm going to be like, look, man, especially if Trump gets back on, man. Okay.
And I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to like, but it's just reality.
Go ahead, bro.
That entire commentary you did was the exact sentiment that Republicans were feeling until Donald Trump came along. You're saying what Donald Trump represented to them, right? The whole drain the swamp. I'm going to be different. We can't
right.
Anything. That's why people on that side of the aisle love Donald Trump so much. And until we get a candidate, like you're saying, that our people love that much. See, you can't keep rolling Obama out. He's a
right. Exactly.
The niggas, I mean, he's tired. Let him go. Let him go. He didn't retire from the game. We need a new Obama. We need a new slugger. We need that. Nobody cares about going to vote for Joe Biden in 2024. Your whole excuse of, well, we got to stop Donald Trump. People are like, for what? Like, he ain't did shit for us, but look at what Biden did. He can't even pass vote rights. Shit, what the hell is he doing for us? So, no, I'm good. I'll just stay home. I feel what you're saying. There's no energy into that. But if you get that, if you get the Donald Trump for Black America,
woo,
and it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Woo. Woo. And look, you said it best, brother. Then I'm gonna let you go. You said it best. You got to put money behind a candidate. I never forget. I was told by a major journalist. He said the problem is for when it comes to participatory politics, Black folks are often told to just go vote. He said white people understand that you don't just go vote. You need to put some money behind that situation. Once you put money on the table, then you have you will automatically get the allegiance that you need from that candidate, regardless. We see it, and we talked about this yesterday. We see it with the Asian American community. They don't have an Asian American candidate, but they got power. They got power. They got Koreatown. They got this part of the city and that part. And I mean, all your major cities, there's a space, an economic development space, a community that speaks to their interests and their needs, right? But they don't even have that level of representation. I don't need, and I'm going, and just very quickly, I don't want the representation. I don't want just the symbolism. I know black folks can be president. I know black folks can be congresspeople. I know black folks can be governors and mayors. We can be aldermen and city council people. Great. I'm tired of just representation. I want power. That's what I want, bro. I want power.
And
that's what's at stake for 2024.
And I always shudder when they say, oh, we got a black governor and we got a black mayor, because black people typically alienate their own, right? I can hold a white person accountable because you got to represent black Baltimore or black America because, you know, you're white, right? So they got to do that because they got to hold that constituent base. Black people feel like, oh, black people will vote for me anyway because I'm their knight in shining armor, right? I will feel like that's what Obama did. I mean, you want to be honest, 8 years, we didn't really get a lot from the Obama administration. Love him to death. Him and his wife, I think Michelle, up here, right? They were the gold standard of black people. But they didn't do a lot for black people, to be quite honest. They probably did more than others have, but they didn't do a lot. And I think we can hold others to a certain standard that we can't hold our own because they feel like they take us for granted. Oh, black people will vote for me anyway. I'm the black motherfucker. Of course they're going to vote for me. No, goddammit. We need something from you, right? And I tell people all the time, it's not about just voting. Politics doesn't stop on election night. You got to put money behind it, but you also got to be a part of the campaign. Go out there and help them put up signs. Go out there and be a part of the poll activities and help them on the polls. Because guess what? There's not a lot of people that do that. So if you can do that and be a part of, whether it's a gubernatorial, mayoral, or presidential, you're now at the table, whether you know it or not. And so now you can get into the ear of that candidate and say, hey, this is what my community needs, right? And they're going to listen because you're helping them achieve success. But as long as you sit on the sideline and say, I don't know if I'm going to vote, I might vote, you ain't getting nothing done. All you're doing is voting. You're a robot. We got to put money behind it. And then even after that, we have to help a Wes Moore, a Val Demings, a whoever, be able to be successful when they do get there. That doesn't mean sitting back waiting 4 years to vote for them again. That means being a part of the process by saying, what can to help to make my community and our city and our state better. And until we get out of this lazy mindset of I'm just going to show up to vote for you, that's all I got to do, then we're going to continue to get scraps off the table where everybody else is eating good.
Woo! There it is. That's why I got him on, y'all. Hassan, Mr. Politics, Giordano. You can check him out every Thursday from 3 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. Dropping jewels. We spent a little extra time today, but Hassan, I had to give you the space, man, because this is just too big, too important for us to just overlook. You brought a lot to the table today, and for us to consider. I thank you so much, dear brother. You know, I love and respect you and admire the great work you're doing. Hey, Hassan, I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones fan. Do you watch Game of Thrones?
No.
No.
I can't tell you damn thing about it.
Look, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, y'all know Hassan is that hand. I think it was my guy, Real Brooklyn. I think you saying the Hassan is the hand, and the hand serves as the advisor to the king or to the queen. Every king and queen has an advisor. Hassan is the hand, folks. Hassan Giordano. Hassan, how can people learn about the great work of the DMV Daily Media Group?
Just go to dmvdaily.news, hashtag, you can put in hashtag Mr. Politics. That'll pull up all my social media sites.
There it is. All right, Hassan Giordano, we'll check in with you, God willing, next week, Thursday of next week. Thank you, brother. Folks, we got to, absolutely. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's bring another powerhouse to the conversation, Brother Rashad, another Culture crew member who's going to talk to us a little bit about what we can expect, not just with the politics thing, but I want to talk about the situation with Brittany Griner. He can bring us up to speed on that, get his analysis, and so much more. Folks, stay with us. We got a lot to get to. Of course, we're going to continue to post your comments. So stay with us in the chat, stay with us in the discussion, and stay with us here on Black Star Network. It's the Culture right here on Black Star Network.
hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Folks, the dynamic first hour, as we checked in last in the beginning of the show, talking to Mr. Politics himself, Hassan Giordano. We talked about the latest around the midterm elections. If you missed the first hour and 15 minutes or so, definitely check it out. A lot was covered, a lot of races, but more importantly, the conversation about what should happen next is was definitely discussed. So definitely you can check us out in the replay and make sure that you stream all of our conversations. Let your friends and family know that you are tuned into the culture here on the Black Star Network. Also, make sure you do your part to support the great work that we're doing here. Financially, we want to make sure that the network is at a place where we can continue to have these conversations. Go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com, and you can make a financial donation to continue to support us here. And while you're there, also friend us on all social media platforms, the Black Star Network on Twitter, Black Star Network on IG, and that will be awesome because we need your support. And while you're there, make sure y'all support me and just jump on and be my friend. That's all I'm asking you to do. Be my friend on IG at Farajii, at The Real Farajii on Instagram, Farajii on Twitter, Farajii Muhammad on Facebook, and we would love to connect with you as we continue to build this community. Now, I want to bring in my brother, another brilliant brother who is always doing some great work, and we bring him on just a few moments late. So I apologize to my brother Rashad, Culture Crew member. He is a nonprofit leader. He's an activist. He's an advocate. He's a dad. He's a family man. So Rashad, I apologize for bringing you on so late, man. The conversation just went in a totally different way, man. But, we needed to discuss this. We need to discuss what is going to be the political future of Black America. Before we get into the updates about Brittany Griner, I certainly want to get your analysis on that. But any analysis that you want to share after this year's midterm election? I know you are a student of political science. You actually ran for office in Baltimore a couple of years ago. What's your take on what we saw on Tuesday, bro?
Hey, one thing about this, I stay firm in it, is that America is going to be America, right? I woke up the next day and wasn't surprised at where the votes landed and how the House is even potentially even more divided, but also took claim that, I notated that Maryland itself, in the respective state that I am in, was going to elect our first Black governor, and did my intentional work of informing my colleagues, my peers, my family of whom they should do research on how to go and be more politically astute as they go in to cast their ballots. I'm not surprised at all of where we are. It's in a space of being ready and being prepared, so that we don't have to be ready to face the same things that we've been waiting for years. Nonetheless, I'm just more, I think it's, at this point, politics is very entertaining and amusing to me, that we got to see a runoff of this Georgia senatorial race when we know one particular one is not qualified at all. And it just shows the duality. So no need of an apology, because what Brother Hassan and you was talking about is of utmost importance. And I like the idea of what you all said, is sometimes we may even have to go into the minor leagues and look at who is the next, our future leaders that have not had the platform and things of that sort. But even more importantly, where you was speaking on that, now that we know how to cast our votes, right? Now that we know how to cast our votes, we have to put the money behind our elected officials as well, because it is the economic stance that allows us to push our political favors and what our priorities are. We got to put our money. We're buying luxury shoes so we can actually buy a luxurious candidate, right? So we got to apply our money to what is most important sometimes to that.
Hey, so if you can buy a luxury shoe, a luxury handbag, you can make an effort to invest in a luxury candidate. I love it, Rashad.
Hey, sometimes you got to make it make sense. You know what Jay-Z said, politics as usual.
Absolutely.
Politics as usual.
And one of the big things for me, bro, is and this is why I wanted us to start this conversation off here on the culture, because I don't want us to lose sight that there are still bigger fish to fry. The bigger thing is, if we're talking about presidency, the bigger thing is Black political power, right? We're talking, and when I say Black political power, it may not come under that banner. Mm-hmm. It may not come under that moniker. It may just be like, how do we find a candidate, or how do we have a political space and platform that speaks to the needs of the oppressed in this country, the often marginalized? But we can't start that conversation unless Black folks are at the forefront, because we not only built this country, we're still being oppressed by this country. So that opens the door for other groups of folks to come on in. I introduced an idea. I shared an idea earlier this week, Rashad, where we talked about the idea of cultural pluralism. And this was from the Jewish scholar by the name of Professor Horace Kallen. And he put it out there some time ago about a cultural pluralism of how do you allow people to still hold on to their history, their knowledge of themselves, all that they find, all that, their identity, while still being in the midst of other people who are holding on to identity, and how we can all move forward as one, that we don't have to, quote unquote, become homogenized. We don't all have to be the same person. That we can be different people, but we can still operate out of a space of unity and not have to be to relinquish who we are. Do you think that's possible now?
Yeah, brother. I think this cultural pluralism, I love that stance, and it goes back to what me and you talked about in previous shows, like Brother Nuri Muhammad, that speaks about the uniformity versus unity. Right. It's that level of engagement that we can be diverse, and we don't have to be monolithic people to understand that, hey, all can be true at the same time. And we're seeing this in all of the difference around the ideologies and our faith and our religions down to our political stance. You can have some very liberal standpoints, but you can also be conservative at some vantage point as well, because a lot of it is all connected to your education, your economic stances, your social economics, and your upbringing, that we are not all in line to sit in one particular lens. That what's always surprises me is I sit in boardrooms, I go to communities, and it's always these jug words around intersectionalities and things of that sort, but we never really bring it into what it looks like in real life, right? Intersectionality, you know how many identities I live with amongst myself as a Black male, first generation, first legacy building, being a father and things of that sort, that when it comes to those different hats that I'm wearing, I have a different vantage point of how I want to prioritize how to get the best gainful things out of each of them. So at times you have to have different approaches. You may have a conservative ideology around education. You may be more liberal towards programming and social services. That does not negate that one is wrong and one is right. We just have to be mindful to find a common ground in that. And that is the most important one. So this cultural pluralism attaches and brings the reality that, hey, all can exist at the same time.
Exactly. We can exist at the same time. We can exist in the same space without losing our sense of self. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this situation with our sister, Brittany Griner, who is now, folks, if you did not know, the former the WNBA star, of course, after getting her sentence of over 9 years as a result of her being in possession of cannabis, is now has been shifted or has been taken to a penal colony in Russia at a location that is unknown. Take a look at this, folks. She's unknown to where she's been taken. And only the reports that we've been seeing so far is that this colony is a place where the conditions, and I'm saying the living conditions, are described as being horrible. So she's taken to a place that's unknown to her friends, to her family, in a place in Russia. And Rashad, I can only imagine what's going through our sister's head, because now she's been taken out of the cell. Now she's in this penal colony in some part of Russia we don't know. And people are really, really concerned about, again, her state of health. Now, here's what the president said just yesterday when talking about the Brittany Griner situation. He said, quote, my hope is that now, my hope is that now that the election is over, Mr. Putin will be able to discuss with us and be willing to talk more seriously about a prisoner exchange. This is what he said inside the state dining room before the White House press corps. The United States, which has classified Griner as quote unquote wrongfully detained, has been engaging in back channel negotiations with Russia for several months. She was sentenced in August to 9 years in prison, and last month her appeal was denied. After it was announced that Griner had been moved to another detention center, her legal team and agent issued statements. Her Russian lawyers, Maria Blagovolina and Alexander Boykov, said they do not have any information about her exact current location or her final destination, but are expecting to be notified along with the U.S. Embassy when Griner arrives at her new holding place. Notification is given via official mail and normally takes up to 2 weeks to be received, according to her lawyers. Man,
that's disheartening. That's so layered, brother.
Rashad, I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Take us back to what it says. President Biden said, now that the elections is over, we may consider having another conversation with Putin. That right there, I think sometimes we just got to take the words as they lay out right in front of us. Again, we have seen us prioritize politics over humanity. And I know we have to go about this in a political manner, but we are talking about someone that grew up with the highest aspirations to be a professional woman basketball player, and somehow unknowingly She has been angled to be a martyr and a political prisoner for some other political aspirations that she did not warrant on herself.
Wow.
That is the cause, and that is the reality that we are looking at, that they are going to use this Black woman for something that has now been decriminalized amongst 20 states in this country. And I know she was out of this country, but still, when we look at this, she is now being used for a political pawn, for something that is out of even her own expertise and lived experience. And we as a people don't know how to galvanize behind her. Our people that have the platforms, that have the money, that have the economics and the political structures do not know how to provide a safe haven and a rescue to get her back to her homeland, to the point that we've lost where she's actually being held hostage at.
Right. Right.
This is a humanitarian global issue,
bro,
that can happen to any of us. And if we only can know about this, is because she's a professional athlete. Farajii, if me or you was to go, or if our cousin was to go across the country, we would not hear a name. We wouldn't even know their acronyms or their initials of their names. This can happen to any and all of us.
Check this out. Here's to your point.
Not been a priority.
And Rashad, to your point, how many of us knew who Paul Whelan was? No one. And then I'm not saying it to throw shade on you. I'm saying, to your point, the reason that we know his name is because of Brittany. Because he was brought into the mix for the prisoner exchange situation. So that's the reason we know his name. But how many of us would have known that this man was already in prison for some time before Brittany got incarcerated? You see what I'm saying? So to your point, you're absolutely right. And even in this situation, folks, look, you said it, we got to take it for what it is. Russia is moving forward and making her a prisoner. They're not playing around. They taking that sister. They didn't put her in no cushy place in Russia. They taking her to a penal colony where no one knows where. And look, the damn thing is so far away. It takes 2 weeks. Look, I'm going back to that quote. It takes 2 weeks for them to get notification. Look, 2 weeks, bro. In a time of 2022, you get a notification by official mail, and it takes 2 weeks in the same country.
This 4-paragraph statement is so powerful and is so informative that if we read between the lines, we can see the seriousness behind this, brother. It is at a point of discomfort. And again, we as a people, what Brother X has been talking about, we must become knowledgeable about our humanitarian rights.
Yeah.
Because people now that we're talking about identity, faith, religion, and origin, all of this is coming back to a diaspora issue and not just a country or citizen issue. It's talking about us as human and how we have the operational or the freedom to travel globally, and how we as a people are not knowing the means to hold our country liable and accountable. That even the U.S. Embassy, my brother, cannot reach her in a space where a text message and a tweet can be posted in 1 second and get one Black man castrated and be ripped of his millions of dollars that he's also donated, but also not can get us back to get this woman a letter so that we can figure out where she is on this earth and how she's being treated. A penal colony?
Penal colony, bro. A penal colony, man. This thing is heartbreaking, man. It is absolutely heartbreaking. Let me share with let me see here. Brooklyn Will, you said this hard lesson to learn 9 years is excess, but this is a grown, well-educated woman that should know better. They know still you have to respect other people, countries' laws, period. I get that, folks. Brooklyn Will, I get that. Trust me. Look, She said it herself, and every time I kind of give you guys an update, some of you always go to, well, she should have known better. She should have known better. It was a mistake, folks. We make mistakes, right?
It was hash, brother. It wasn't even like.
Hey, look. That's nothing. Trust and believe, bro. We live in America. You know what I'm saying? We you know, in state they just weed is on the ballot. So this is nothing in America, but this is Russia. But I know she made a mistake. That doesn't take away from the fact that the sister is getting a lot more than you know. I mean, she's being penalized like she straight up murdered somebody. You know what I'm saying? Or even attempted to murder somebody. Like if you attempted murder, if they do this, can you imagine what the penalty would be if you attempted to, like if you have to harm somebody or you tried to kill someone? Can you imagine that? If you get 9 years or 8 years, and then you got to go to a penal colony in some undisclosed location, and then just for a little bit of CBD. Can you imagine when you do a much more grievous offense? Come on, brother. This stuff is crazy. But here's the thing. Will Putin open the doors for a negotiation? I've been saying this. I think the president needs to take a more proactive approach, not wait on Russia, but say, look, humble yourself. Humble yourself and say, look, we got our differences. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like street level stuff. You know what I'm saying, Rashad? Like this is the stuff that we learned in the street. Like, look, man, we got beef, but this situation you got over here, this ain't got nothing to do with our beef. Now look, let's figure this thing out. I don't know. Like if they talking about backdoor negotiation, you mean to tell me you can't figure something out that makes Russia get to the table faster on this situation? That's kind of hard for me to believe. That's hard for me to believe. Now, Russia is trying to prosecute the war, and they're trying to roll out of Ukraine because Ukraine is fighting back. And so Russia is giving up on that situation a little bit, right? In cities across the country in Ukraine. Man, look, if I was Biden to be like, look, man, we don't want to bring no more heat. We're trying to end this. You want to end the war? We're trying to bring Brittany home. We got to figure something out.
Hey, brother, I just hope he don't see this as a spades game and he want to renege on the other many of things that he'd already reneged on. But we got to do our best. And I just put my prayers up for this sister who, again, like of course, like it's not our laws are different from other countries' laws, but in the sense of we all make human errors. And I think this is not of the severity that it is for her to be having these implications as it was. And we know that this is much larger than what is being shared. And it has went much longer than it should have been. And if there was priority to get her home by now, we know that it would have been done by now. And we have the means to do so. And we could have angled our allyship as a country to get her back, and we have seen our country fail in that particular stance. At one point, I can't identify a win that Black Americans have gained, and that's the sad and truth about it. Somebody just please tell me the wins that we have seen, because right now it's slim to none. And I think we didn't notice enough losses that at these charts looking like we down a couple points, man. We might have to go back into our huddle.
Absolutely. Let me share with some of the culture crew members that's saying, Nisa, you said Brother Rashad speaks the truth. Why don't Black people have a unified central body to protect our people? You're absolutely right, bro. And Nisa, you are right. Like this, you know what I'm saying? Like we look, folks, if we're not seeing, like, look at all of these things that we're talking about. If these are indicators that we need to branch out to think about some alternative space, alternative reality, I don't know what else we need to see at this point. Bodziak, you checked in and said, with the election over, this helps Putin save face for not releasing her early. But that's only if he agrees to release her soon. Right. B. Bodziak, you're right. Sandy, this is not a back. Thank you, B. Sandy, you said this is not back in the day when Jesse went over to a brown country and got hostages back home, right? This is way more complicated with this leader over there too. Yeah,
Agreed.
Absolutely. Chuck, you checked in and said, look, just because our country allows it doesn't mean other countries allow it. She shouldn't take anything with her now. She has to answer for it. They don't care if she's a pro player. I mean, yeah, now we can say that. That's Monday morning quarterbacking. Like, yeah, now. You see what I'm saying? But y'all got to remember that Brittany has been in Russia time and time again. She's been playing overseas for some time now. So this is not her first. This is not like, they love her in Russia. She's a superstar there too.
Exactly. That's what it's just like. She wasn't just visiting for vacation, right?
No. And first thing, Rashad, who the hell visits Russia for vacation?
Travel and play in other countries on their off season. Like in that sense, it's like she has dual citizenship as a professional athlete to operate and play in that country, that she knew the means and the ways around it. That I think, late early flights, she may have just forgotten that it was in the bag and didn't know of the severity of it. And now we are seeing the implications, but we can't say, man, you get what you deserve, man. Because if that's the case, any of us would have been held accountable for the plenty of mistakes that we did out of ignorance, out of immaturity and things of that sort, man. We got to reinstate some level of humanity, empathy, and understanding. We can't ask for it in one sense and then don't apply it in the other. Like, we can't continue to be 50-50.
Absolutely. P. Jackson, you said Dennis Rodman offered to talk to Putin. Putin, look, man. He did offer, but he's not qualified. What can he say?
I'm hesitant on that. Because you know what?
I don't think he qualified.
Kardashian not qualified either, but she got some of our some.
But she didn't do it across international waters, though. She was quite what she talked to Trump to release a couple of political prisoners.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes you got to take the unconventional approach too. And if he has these relationships to wake up the consciousness, do it. But let's not try. Let's exert all of our potential resources to see if it's possible.
I'm open to that. I'm really open to that, Rashad. I'm not downplaying. I just like Dennis Rodman though. Like, yo, come on. I don't like him as a person or a basketball player. I'm just saying him in that space. You know what I'm saying? And his brushes with Putin is just a couple of run-ins with him. It's not like this is homeboy. You know what I mean? It's not like but I don't know. Like again. We got to think about it. There is economic interest involved. There is power interest involved because this is Russia. This is not like Turkey. This is not like, I don't know, some other country that we have a solid relationship with or even halfway decent relationship with. This is Russia.
Yeah.
America and Russia have been butting heads since Rocky.
Mm-hmm. They like the two stepbrothers. This is the stepbrothers thing.
Yep.
Get your hand off of my
button head since Rocky 4, dog. Like,
I'm glad we can make light of it. Like, it's not a funny, amusing situation.
No, it's not a funny situation. I'm just trying to bring some levity into the discussion. But at the end of the day, like, let's keep this real. This is Russia. America is not prosecuting a war with Russia, quote unquote, but a prosecution. There is a war propaganda. There's that is happening. I mean, you're not going to be able to just roll back everything the president said bad about Russia over these past couple of months since Russia invaded Ukraine back in February. You're not going to Putin is not going to just forget that and say, he's probably sitting there like, you need your player back after you keep slamming. And I keep bringing this point up, folks, but think about it. Would you? If y'all were in Putin, somebody is blasting you, and you have a bargaining chip that they need to humble themselves that you could play on and you can use for leverage. Would you just relinquish that bargaining chip because it's the right thing to do?
Right. Which is why I think it's important that we talking about specifically what can we do and how we can hold our president and our our country and our government accountable, because it is in a sense that we can understand Putin's using this for his own advantage and vanity, but it's like, what do we do, and what are we losing? And we're losing the momentum. We're losing the reality that we can unify a country and actually give some type of gain and win to our people. And although it is, when you look at a political prisoner who is a potential in exchange of someone that has murderous and treacherous and have brought weapons across the country to many other countries in comparison to a WM player, it doesn't seem the way out, but still.
Right.
What else could we put on the table? Right. And I think, man, this is just heartening. Every time they give us some updates on it, it doesn't seem to get any better. It only seems to get worse.
Look, we had our civil rights leaders who have, like Al Sharpton, of course, Reverend Al Sharpton, Mark Morial of the National Urban League, and other folks that have petitioned for the administration. But I'm wondering, maybe we need to just have a delegation go to Russia, right? And I'm talking about black folks or somebody. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, Brittany talked to some officials from the, the Secretary of State office, if I'm not mistaken, earlier, like a few days ago. But you need a different voice. But the problem is, no matter who's sent over there, the problem isn't the person that's being sent. The problem is Russia has is the sender. You represent the United States. That's the problem. That's the problem. You can send anybody over there. Hell, you can send Trump over there if you wanted to. But the problem is, it's not you being the one who's being sent. It's the one who's doing the sending, the sender. That's the problem. And and again, just to temper expectations at this point, this is going to be a long process. I don't foresee Brittany getting released within the next 30 days. I think we just need to keep her in our prayers, keep her family in our prayers. I think that when developments like this happen, we use the platform, we update the people about the situation. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a long process. And hopefully they'll get more information about her location at this penal colony. And more importantly, this is the biggest thing, and I think you can agree with this, Rashad, that the sister stays in the best of spirits and not fall into a dark place. One of our culture crew members said that, and I don't know, I haven't heard the story, so I don't know, but they said that her lawyers brought to her a basketball and she refused to take the basketball. So she might be, I'm sure she's experiencing some bout of depression as a result of this situation. So we got to keep,
certainly,
we got to keep her in prayer. We got to keep sending her good vibes, good energy, even across the water, and just keep hoping that the right thing will be done to save our sister and bring her home. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's have another conversation here. I want to talk about Black Panther. Let's shift gears. We've been talking about some of the hard stuff, but Black Panther is coming out tomorrow, folks. So if you are feeling a certain type of way about your blackness, don't worry. There's always Wakanda. So we're going to talk a little bit about why we may still want to see Black Panther Wakanda forever, even though the late, great Chadwick Boseman is not there in the film. Stay with us. We'll have that conversation. And I got a little something for you for Trends Post and Doing the Most. So stay with us. It's The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking to Culture Crew member Rashad Staten to give us his insights and analysis about the stories as he does every week, and we're so happy to have our brother. Folks, we are a couple of hours away from going back to our favorite fictional place. And in some people's minds, it's actually real. Wakanda, as Black Panther, Wakanda Forever will be hitting the screens tomorrow, November the 11th. And many people are wondering whether the same type of energy and momentum that we saw from the first film is going to be captured in this next showing. But of course, there has always been talk about what to do with the character of T'Challa since the passing of Chadwick Boseman. And now folks are still pushing that narrative, recast T'Challa, to the point where people are even saying, Rashad, that they might not even go to see the Wakanda Forever, even though all of the other cast members, Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, Angela Bassett, and all of the original cast is back for the second showing, that they might not even see it because of how Marvel has simply handled the passing away of Chadwick Boseman, and essentially they're saying killing off the character. But if you look at the trailer, folks, the Black Panther didn't die. At the end of the trailer, he had that little part, kind of stands right there, and then his little claws come out, and boom, Black Panther didn't die. Now, according to Marvel, we may see Letitia Wright, who plays the sister of T'Challa, Shuri, the scientist, that she may suit up to become the new Black Panther as a result of the passing away of Chadwick. But what do you make of this? And I know this is like, some people like, oh man, this is a real cultural thing, because Black Panther, Rashad, this is a special place in my heart, like for a lot of people, right? Like, y'all remember, it was crazy how we attach Blackness to certain things. And what we saw with the first Black Panther, if you didn't see the first Black Panther, it was almost like, yo, you didn't see Black Panther, therefore you must not be Black enough. So what do you make of this new controversy?
Hey, brother, I'm curious to who rallying up that cry. Is it us, or is it propaganda to stop the momentum of seeing Black cinema continuous momentum swing and showing us in good light and good faith, and even the level of creativity and innovation that Coogler, but also what Wakanda did? I say this is in the spirit and the light of honoring our brother Chad Boseman. We as a people must continue to support this film, and we must show up in numbers again, because it's much bigger. And what Chad Boseman and Coogler and others have done was create a space for us to see us portrayed in a light that is strength-based, asset-based, in a light of goodness, right? And I think beyond that, of course, how many times can we count on? We can count beyond our hands and our feet of seeing Hollywood exploit us. But in a sense of larger than that, we must take this in a sense that take the emotion out of it, and let's be affirmative that we need to use these points of saying, hey, not even after we may see the continuation or the rollout of this film and other Marvel films, what we need to do is rally behind, like we said, put our money behind things that show us in good light, that can advocate for us, that if we continuously invest and support productions as this, despite the emotional attachment that we have, that we will continue to see other films of that magnitude continue to portray us and continue to create other narratives, because not did Wakanda just show us a good light, but it gave us some historical analogies to the point that we have just seen the woman queen, the woman king, and things of that sort. I don't think without the Wakanda we wouldn't have Woman King, and we wouldn't have the other great shows and movies that we have seen emerges. And we are seeing a shift in Hollywood production. We are seeing a shift in the film industry of Black directors, Black producers, Black designers, wardrobes, and creators, that we need to see the larger aim and the vision, and we need to rally behind so that we can see a continuation of this, because this is something that I want my son to see. And it may be omissions of brother Chad Boseman, but I hope and I pray that it still gives the same message, and it still allows the light to shine in our children's eyes when they can see Black to show up on the screens, and it's not covered in bloodshed.
I hear you. I agree. Let me take a couple of comments from our culture crew. Jawan, you said, I'd rather see Shuri become the new Black Panther. My heart can't take a recast. Nobody can play that part like Chadwick. Well, I agree. The only thing is that how many other superheroes have been recasted? James Bond was recasted. There's a new Spider-Man. There's a new Superman. They didn't kill off the character as a result of the actor passing away or the actor not doing it, right? You know, that's and to your point, Rashad, we're talking about longevity. We're talking about continuing that part of the discussion. But here's the other reason. This is what was laid out in the article from the Griot. We should see the movie because Ryan Coogler is still at the helm of the film, folks. He still wrote it. He still directed it. He was still able to get the brilliance of the original cast back together. He's still at the core of the film. So for nothing else, like we can't shoot ourselves in the foot. And Chadwick, I really don't believe, Rashad, that Chadwick, and God be pleased with him, I don't think Chadwick would say, don't tell the film. Ryan Coogler put this film together. This is his view of a Black superhero, a Black reality. Afrofuturism is on front stage. This is, why shouldn't we? Now, of course, it's Marvel, it's still a superhero, but there are some cultural, this film resonates on a cultural level that I think that I'm not going to not see the film, because a Black man still took the story to another level. It was a black man, a young black man, a dynamic director, dynamic writer. He took the story to a new level. So for nothing else, I think Chadwick would say, go and support the film, go and support my brother and my sisters and my cast, go and support it, right? And let's make sure that Marvel understands the power of creating, to your point, of having a positive black role model, quote unquote, black superhero that doesn't die. That would be the big thing. I'm going to still see the film, God willing. My family and I, we got tickets for Saturday, so we're going to still see the film. And guess what? I wanted to see T'Challa recast it, but even more so, let's support the creativity and the brilliance of like Ryan Coogler. All right, very quickly, TC Cook, you checked in and said if you ever read the actual comics, then you would see that the sister became Black Panther in the comics. Wow.
Ding, ding, ding. Just so happens, chance. I was enlightened of that as myself, and I said, look how art imitates life. For those that I'm not into the comics and I'm not into Marvel, but when somebody enlightened me to that, I said, look how art imitates life, and everything happens for a reason. It's untimely death, but in the sense of when it plays into this, the legacy of Marvel itself, it was going to naturally happen anyway.
Right. All right, let's go take one more comment real quick, and then we'll jump into another final story. DeAndre, he said it's going to be an extremely emotional and powerful film, and also have several layers to the film, just like the last one. Supposedly, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes long. I'm here for it, bro. And I'm right through you, DeAndre. Look, we don't get the chance to see black men honored in film much. So for Ryan Coogler, I'm going back to Ryan, for Ryan Coogler to include this, and y'all remember seeing the trailer, y'all saw a Chadwick's face on the wall as part of the Wakanda, set, like he's honoring his brother. And I think we do a disservice. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know it's a movie and all that, but I'm saying on a cultural point, we do a disservice to try to just, try to omit, oh, right. Ryan, let's see the film before we make a judgment about it. Because just like the Woman King, right, Rashad, people would say, oh, no, this is going to be this is going to be that. Then you see the Woman King, you up there crying. We all want to be the homie, and, we all want to do that. Like, see the film first. Let's pray. Let's praise Ryan Coogler for his brilliance and artistic creativity, and let's continue to just lift up the great work of our brother Chadwick Boseman. It's just that simple. To me, it's just that simple. So I'm all with it.
I close it out with that, brother. I say you
there we go. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna close it out with that. All right, real quick. If you don't know, tomorrow Takeoff, who was unfortunately shot and killed while at a private bowling party just last week. And, of course, we know that his funeral just shook and rocked the hip hop community. Well, Alicia Keys, Justin Bieber, and others are set to perform at his funeral as a celebration of life, which is going to be actually held in Atlanta at the State Farm Arena, where hundreds can go and show their support and love for Takeoff. And brother, it's so interesting, Rashad. Of course, I don't know Migos, I don't know Offset or Quavo, or I didn't know Takeoff, obviously. But I was thinking about this, and me and Nero were talking about this the other day, and I said, man, I can only imagine what Quavo and Offset may be feeling. Because they just had their Offset kind of broke away from the group and all of that stuff. But now you had this to happen. And so I could just only imagine what those brothers are going through. Like, I'm not talking about hip hop celebrities. I'm just talking about black men losing a brother.
Yep, and family.
It's family. They were family. They were literally family.
Cousins.
So I could only imagine. So I'm happy to hear that the celebration of life is going to be done in a very, very big and honorable way for Takeoff, bro. What's your take on that very quickly?
Hey, I'm liking the angle of this. I've always been a follower of the Migos. I remember when I was SGA vice president at Morgan, we brought the Migos to Morgan State homecoming when they only had 2 hits, and that was Bandos. Even before Versace and Bad and Bougie, when they only had 2 songs in a mixtape. So I've been following them since they were wearing fake Versace, and now got an actual contract with Versace. So it's a saddened death. I think the hip hop community, the black community, is saddened by his loss, but I can also see the shift in narrative and accountability that's been talked about as well. That they honor him in this space, a celebratory moment to honor his death, so that those can not just mourn and grieve, but they can also see the beautiful moments that they shared with him. I like this approach. I think it's reasonable, is purposeful, but it also shows who we are as a people globally, that we know how to, despite the differentiations and where we are on this continent, this country and this continent itself and this globe, we have some universal practices of how we honor our past and those that are transitioning. And I'm glad that they're doing it in this manner, man.
And you know what? I hope it's a turning point for hip hop music. I hope it's a turning point for artists to say, you know what? We're not going to keep promoting certain messages, right? We're not going to keep promoting the killing of black men. Like I really do, because I know that there was we were talked about black men deserve to grow old. I really hope that this is a turning point for those brothers who get into the industry, that they think twice, 3 or 4 times actually, before they put out certain messages. And I know what the record company is going to say. Oh, keep putting it out there. We'll, then you could do a record about this. But if keep it gangster, keep it hardcore. But I hope these brothers will say, nah, man, we can't keep doing this. And and then expecting the veterans like a Jay-Z or a Nas or a Snoop or to put out the more positive message, because they have the ability to do that now. But I hope the younger bro. I want to hear from Lil Baby. I want to hear from the Baby. I want to hear about those who are in the game real heavy right now. 21 Savage. Like, we should not be talking about killing and shooting black men when our brother was just taken down in a violent way. And you gonna get on the track and start bouncing, talking about what are we saying? And then you wonder why. Then you wonder why, Rashad. Then you wonder why, man. I don't know why the street's so violent, because it's mixed messaging, bro. It's mixed messaging. It just doesn't. You don't come across as sincere. You can't talk about all that stuff. You expect the people to believe that you really about that life, but then when that life really comes to you, man, I don't even know why we killing each other, brother. It starts with us first. It starts with us. And I hope that this is a turning point. Resist the industries wanting to tell our story in a violent manner. That's the thing. That's the thing, that we resist the energy of trying to tell our story in a violent manner. Rashad, I know that's the thing that's near and dear to you. What's your final point on that, bro?
I think with every life lost, there's a life that to be gained. And like you said, we got to use this as a way to shift our approach to the music that we have. We can definitely see. I even see it. I listen to the Migos. You see it, a change in their music in itself. I think they were being labeled as our Black Beatles, and you started to see their music mature. You started to see that they became family men. They became economically savvy. They started to invest back into their communities, and they start to now, they're highlighting the life of Takeoff. You can see that everybody talks to his character, and his character still being intact throughout it, and being a humble man that we miss. Our music must reflect the person that they are outside of their artistry. And we got to start to see that, and we are seeing the emergence of it. So I want us to recognize that. But I think it would be a rallying cry in a shift in our music, and you can start to see that, right? Even Lil Baby himself, he no longer curses in his music, and he's the #1 rapper of this generation. You got all the other young brothers that is out here that's doing positive things, and you're starting to see that. And I think even these conversations around, like what Kanye West is saying, of how certain folks are controlling our music and our economic powers because they want to become profitable off of Black Death, that once we start to retain the ownership of our music, our rights, and things of that sort, that we can change our messaging. Man, somebody has to be the next Sam Cooke.
There it is. Rashad, I always appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for your extra time with us today. Truly, truly appreciate it. You're amazing, brother. Keep up the great work. And God willing, man, Wakanda forever, brother.
Wakanda forever, brother. Always for the culture. I see you in the movie theaters, brother.
See you there. Yes,
don't eat all the popcorn. All right. Peace.
I'm more of a nachos type of guy anyway, Rashad. I'm more than nachos. My brother right there, Rashad Staton. Check it in as always here on The Culture. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Let me just share this very quickly. Brother Roland is going to be having a very, very powerful conversation tonight. If you're in the D.C. area and you're going to be around Howard University, you may want to come through to Howard because Brother Roland, Sister Dr. Julianne Malveaux, Dr. Greg Carr, my sister Tamika Mallory, and a host of other thought leaders, civil rights activists, and community leaders will be gathering at Howard University this evening to have a post-election town hall, a national town hall. I put it on my social media, and you can go to blackstarnetwork.com to see it, or just go to Brother Roland Martin's page. But I'm bringing that up because it continues the conversation that we've been having about now what? And continue the conversation about Black political power. So we got a lot of Black thinkers, Black political thinkers in the room, in the space, at the same place, at the same time, moderated by our very own Brother Roland Martin, Dr. Julianne Malveaux. And so if you are in Howard University, near Howard University in the DMV, or if you're looking to check in with that, definitely to check out that conversation, a national town hall meeting about politics. Also, Mark Morial from the National Urban League will be on as part of that discussion, and so much. So we need these discussions. We are going to continue to push the question, now what? We're going to continue to push the question, are you ready for a new change, a new reality when it comes to Black political power? And I'm going to stay on it, folks. I'm going to stay on it. I'm going to continue to push it. As you heard Hassan in the earlier part of the show, I'm so committed. I'm committed to seeing something different because I know it's time now. It is absolute time right now for us to think differently about our political future, and more importantly, to get out of just representation and into a place of power. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Make sure y'all continue to show support for the Black Star Network. Go to our website, blackstarnetwork.com. You can support us financially, share the content, and let folks know that Black media is here to stay. I would love to make sure that we get all that we can get to continue to have these discussions and to use this platform to have culturally relevant conversations. So definitely check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. Please give to help us to reach our goals as we're expanding the operation, and we are looking to make it more a 24-hour streaming platform. The other thing is, make sure y'all follow me on my social media. You can follow me at The Real Farajii, Farajii. You see my name down at the bottom there. The Real Farajii on IG, Farajii on Twitter, Farajii Muhammad on Facebook, and we'd love to have you to be a part of the community. Tomorrow, we're going to start having our first online culture crew member to be on air. Yes, we're going to have that conversation tomorrow, so we'll be bringing a sister on, and then I'm going to start lining them up, folks, lining them up to get your voice heard on air. So if you're looking to get on air, we have a segment called Tell Us What We're Missing, where you can talk to us and say, hey, you've been covering these stories, but you guys did not cover that story. This story is very important to me. I would love to have the opportunity to talk about it. Just send me an email at farajii@blackstarnetwork.com with your story idea, a little bit about yourself, and then let's see how we can bring you on. I got some more people that's going to be coming on. I wanted to kick it off from tomorrow, but we're going to have more people coming on, more thoughts, and it's just going to be a lot more fun. So definitely check out tomorrow. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for spending some extra time with us this afternoon. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Roland Martin Unfiltered. And as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.